Hello, g'day everybody. Welcome back to Game Day Squad's Aussie Rules live show. We are here to talk about round 20. We're going to be doing a fantasy review, go game by game, show you all the good matchups, the players to avoid, and have a discussion about some of the key points from the lineups that were just dropped about an hour and a half ago. Of course, I'm joined by my good friend and co-host in Cal to chop it all up, mate. Are you ready to dive into this round and have a look at how your squad's going to be looking at the end?
Yeah, mate. Always excited. Interesting week. There's a few big names coming back in with teams tonight. And there's a few good matchups across the board that have me playing some players I've not played this season. So I'm keen to talk about them, talk about some of the big names I've maybe left out, and see what you think about it, see what everyone thinks about. So
it's interesting. I don't know. I don't think I had too much of a spice up. Like maybe one or two, but I'm keen to see how far you've swayed off the mark.
You know, I've been in a bit of form the last few weeks, so maybe I'm just feeling myself, and maybe I'm starting to get adventurous as we hit 5 more rounds to go. So I'm definitely out of the hunt for a top 10 and a prize card, which is sad, but I've still got some damage I can do in the weekly competitions. That's for sure.
Absolutely, yeah, and this is really starting to be a bit. Got to get it done now, or it may never happen for me in terms of getting the top 10 spot. I think I'm about 600, maybe 700 points off. So I really need to string a couple good weeks here, and I could make it. But, one really bad week, and I think that'll be it. That'll be the nail done and dusted. But, mate, before we talk about fantasy, let's get the brain activated a little bit. I've made this graphic because I got asked a really funny question the other day, and it was exactly this. That if you had to go up in a fight against one of these animals, what would you pick and why?
Geez, you are getting the brain thinking at 8 o'clock on a Thursday night. Who's asking you this question? Damn.
So you got a shark, and of course you're swimming, like you're in the water. A crocodile.
Yeah, definitely not a shark. I can't swim.
And then a lion just on turf.
And I'm going to go lion just because I don't back myself against any of these animals. Swim, definitely no chance. The last thing I want to be involved in is a death roll by a crocodile. So yeah, I'll go with the lion.
Okay, I had a very different thought process to you here.
You actually thought you'd come out on top?
No, well, first of all, I think I would lose to every single one. But I thought about it for a little bit, and I thought, what is one area, if I was to get very lucky, could I exploit, let's say? And for me, it was with the crocodile. They can't actually open their mouths. It's not very strong, but their bite force down is very strong. So if somehow I could just snatch onto that snout, they might not get it open, but I have a feeling my head might be halfway down the stomach before that happens anyway. So
Yeah, brutal.
that was my thought process. I tried to really think it out. I was like, shark, no chance. Lion, probably just claw me to death. It'll be slow and painful.
You being the surfer, I thought you would have gone the shark. I thought you would have already told me that you've beaten off a few sharks. But geez, that's not the words to use. Punched a few sharks. Hey, like Mick Fanning style. So
okay, yeah. nah, mate. That's if anyone's watching, leave some comments. What would you pick and why? Where do you think you could see some weakness, a matchup you could exploit? The matchup matrix for me says Crocodile.
I've still got some GDS cards that have been torn up by my dog. So maybe best answer, Tom, from the chat. We'll get one. So
absolutely, mate. Let's get into game one. Your Port Power taking on Carlton in a Friday night thriller. You can see me there, the tumbleweed. I might let you take this away. Talk about the players you have in this one and why.
Yeah, going to be a good game. I sneaky think Port can win this game. And I don't like saying that. I don't like saying that. We play quite well under the roof there at Marvel. So I actually think we're a chance. And I do like our half-back boys, but we haven't gone with either of them. But I have gone with Connor Rosie. That's not going to be a surprise to anyone. I'm riding and dying with my boy Connor. And when he's been playing and when he's been healthy, I've been loving what I've been seeing. So I don't know many coaches are going to be rolling him out every week. So where I'm at, I'm going to be looking for that advantage. Okay. I know if Connor Rosie does have a big week, then I've got an advantage that no other coach does have, because even the coaches that are playing him definitely aren't playing a diamond of him. So the one I'm probably more want to talk about is Harry Mackay, and this is probably more an emotional hedge than anything. But I just don't think we can have it. I just don't think we have anyone that can go with him up the ground. And I think it'll be a game where he can kick 4. And I reckon it'll be a game where he can take 8 marks up the ground and just be dominant. So, yeah, the forwards were easily the toughest for me to find this round. I don't know how you found it. I know I did actually see one of your players. You've gone with another key forward later. But, and I always feel like you should have a key forward in there because they do have such a high ceiling with 8 points for a goal. But yeah, this week it's me. Harry Mackay is going to give that upside.
Yeah, okay. I guess I'll give you my 2 cents on why I didn't pick Harry Mackay. I really like the Radigalia combo. That 2 defenders, the 2 talls, and super athletic at that. They can run with just about anyone. I know Harry Mackay is a whole different beast when it comes to physical stature and trying to play one-on-one against him. He is going to win some of those battles. But I do think if there's 2 players that could somewhat neutralise his effect, that Alir and Radigalia would be 2 of the better options, especially if they're trying to force the switch. So we'll see how it goes. But I also hear your point. Harry Mackay could just take 4 from right in front, kick 4 goals, have a fan crack a game, and then I'll be sitting here like, why didn't I do it?
Why didn't you do it? Yeah, well, I'm going to get that like I said, that hedge in early. You haven't gone with maybe the other big name here. Well, 2 big names. I was actually pretty shocked. I don't know about you when I saw Butters was averaging more points than Walsh. And Cripps, don't let that average fool you. His last month has been insane. And we've stayed clear of all of them.
Yep, so have done. I can't pick it. I do think there's an explosion in this game, to be honest with you. Like, there's some fantastic fantasy players, and I think it's going to be a really good game at that. I know, like, that aside, though, someone's going to have a silly one, like 30 disposals, maybe a goal or 2, some, like 10 tackles. There's something like that in there, but I really can't pick between the big 4 in Cripps, Walsh, Butters, Rosie. So I'm going to play it a little bit safer. I'm just going to go with neither, because I do also see some of these players getting neutralised. I do think there's only sort of 1 or 2 big ones in there. Then Nick Newman for me. I'm looking elsewhere this round, and Dan Houston's way too inconsistent at this point of the season for me to just.
I do like Houston, and Houston still might come into my side. Just like I said, we play very well over at Marvel, and I think off halfback, suits the rebounding game off halfback. So I did see Farrell was back this week, so we've got our 2 boys there. So yeah, I'd consider Houston. I don't think you'd be silly doing that. And you're saying about the guys before the big boys in the middle. If I had to pick one, I'd probably pick Cripps. He tore us apart in the last game over at Adelaide Oval, and I just don't think we have anyone of his size. Like Willem Drew is our defensive player, but you can't stop can't stop Cripper. So
Yeah, and I think one thing to have a look at here is the ruck matchup matrix. It looks really good, but no De Koning for Carlton. He's out. So there's actually really no fantasy viable ruck to go with, although the numbers scream this is a must-start game for a good ruck.
maybe it's I was gonna say the old Jordan Sweet game. I don't think so. I'd be staying clear. Maybe if there was someone like a Finn Layson, remember last year when he would pop up and you kept telling me how good of a player he was, but no, you wouldn't be doing that this week.
No, I think I'll steer clear of that. Steer clear of this game, period, for me. That's my mindset, at least. I think anyone else you want to talk about in this one, Cal? Should we move on to game 2?
Yeah, is that not a bit disappointing starting your Friday night football with no fantasy players? Can't remember last time one of us have done that, or on a Thursday night when it was back there.
I think it actually could be the first time for either of us. So it will be sad. But, is what it is. Maybe the hope is I come home strong and just take out a good position this week. Maybe the top. Maybe I need to start reaching for the top again. Because if you fall just short, you're just about there.
Yeah. No,
so game 2, Cal. And looks like we've had a pretty similar mindset here with only one difference. Sheasel's back in for me. I know you gave me stick about that last week. He's back in with his form. Cherry, you've loaded up on Cherry. We'll talk about him in a second. And then we've split here. We've gone 2 Geelong players. But I've gone to the defence with Tom Stewart. And you've looked at the forward in Brian Myers. Cal, why don't you start with Cherry? Because Sheasel's the obvious. We'll get into him in a second. Why are we going Cherry Gold? What do we love about this matchup?
I've just pulled in the thing. I don't know why that hadn't updated there, but you see that Geelong matchup. Rucks do score really well against Geelong, and Cherry's just been in some fantastic form. His last 4 weeks, 141, 134, 107, 143. Now we'll get to a big name ruck who's back this week, but I just think I was almost going to call it Cherry Week, but there's too many times I've called it this insert player name week, and it hasn't worked out. And I could have gone a few ways with it this week, but I do think he's going to be in for a really, really big game. And I honestly, if I had a platinum, I'd potentially even be thinking about him. I'm also looking for a bit more of a pod with where I'm sitting with the rankings. But yeah, I just love the matchup. And you can see there, this guy's second only to Sheasel with the averages for the season in this game. So yeah, a really viable option for me this week.
Love it. I definitely looked at the matchup as well and thought fantasy points here. It should be a really good Tristan Cherry week, that's for sure. So I'm in there as well. I completely understand. And then Sheasel, of course. You've gone all-star. This is your big point of difference, I guess, when we go into the rounds. I spoke about, I criticized him earlier this season, saying he's fallen out a little bit. But you let me know and rectified that he is back. How keen are you to see Sheasel run around with that all-star?
What was that? Was he was averaging like 110 points over 3 weeks? Was that when he had his dip in form in the middle of the season? Yeah. He's matchup proof for me. So that not the best game from a matchup point of view, but I think he is definitely matchup proof as a player. So yeah, okay. I don't know much more to say about him. I want to talk more about Tommy Stewart because I did think about him long and hard, and ultimately I just went, no, I'm going to trust North and what the data's telling me. And then I know he's a defender in our game, but he has been running through the middle. He has been getting those CBAs. Yeah. But it's still not the best matchup in the world against North Melbourne. So I said no, knowing that so many coaches would play him this week. So maybe you start by there. Did that cross your mind?
Yeah, it crossed my mind. I actually sort of came to... I was looking at James Sicily and I was looking at Tom Stewart sort of for this spot here. You'll see my entire squad later. And I've just given the edge to Tommy Stewart. I know we spoke about the James Sicily niggles that he's been dealing with. He is playing through an injury right now. And although it really hasn't affected his fantasy output at all, he's actually playing his best footy of the season. But so is Tom Stewart. 150, 135, 141, 124, over the past 4. And I really thought for Geelong last week, Tom Stewart would be neutralised, and he showed me wrong. He went for 150. So at that point, I was like, if he's going to do it in a matchup like that, I am also going to be really bullish about a tougher matchup for mids here, but nonetheless, as a defender, you still have that upside of getting your hands on the footy more. And I want to roll with the Tom Stewart dice this round and hope he scores big again because, the numbers over the past couple of rounds will tell you he could be in for a monster.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to with CBAs. So 83% obviously last week. 83%, 72, 85, 68 his last 4.
Yep.
So he's been getting a fair bit. I think Tanner Bruin's straight back into the midfield. So
I will say, though, in lineups, they actually have Stewart listed as on ball. So we'll see. There's a bit of tactics. Rosie's apparently a forward pocket, but we know what happens there. So Ken loves his old
I was watching
putting random players in random positions.
I think Goulden was on a forward pocket last week or something, and I was watching at the game, watching all the players. They don't line up there, so you don't read too much into it. But interesting to see. He's obviously in good form, so not a silly option. But I've just gone a different direction.
How about Brian Myers? Let's talk about a player that started 2024 off just on fire. Thought he would be a lock for the All-Star squad heading to the end of this year. And although he's still in contention, he's definitely made it a bit harder for himself, that argument to crack into the best 7 for this season. You're rolling with him. Big Inca to Messi. Tell me how you're feeling about Myers. Why did we give him the bronze nod in this one?
Well, first of all, I want to know if he's in the All-Star squad, which rumor has it could be out as early as next week.
Yes.
So,
I'll give you some more information. You've been
you've
begging for it.
You've been keeping that one under lock and key.
I have been.
So I'm keen to see if he finds his way into it. For me, I'm boom or bust player, and I need the boom this week. I'm willing to cop the bust because, like I said, where I'm at with the seasonal competition. So I do. It's a tougher matchup against North, but in the event that the Cats get their stuff together, he is someone that I think can go big, and I'm going to roll with him this week because, again, another player that I think is a good player, but I don't know most coaches will be rolling with him. So, I'm happy to roll the dice on him.
Yep, and I hear you. 61 points last week, 79 3 weeks ago as well. Like, definitely, there's a bit of a form scare, in all honesty, for him in this one. So I'm steering clear. But as you mentioned, he has had a knack for going real big in games where maybe sometimes the numbers don't indicate that he should. So, if it pays off, man, it could really set you up in a good position in the second round to get a forward that just explodes and a bit of a pod at that, depending on how you're setting your squad for the round.
Yeah. Move on. It's a pretty boring matchup. Colby McCurch is out. So
no Zachy Fisher injured, so unfortunately not an option. Cheza, not sure how many people will be starting him, but let's get into game 3. This is the Battle of Queensland.
The Q Clash, mate. Come on, you're a Queenslander now. You're up here. You need to know what it's called.
It's the Q Clash.
You're going to say the Battle of the Bridge. At least that's got a ring for it. There's not much history in this game.
No.
Poor Kern.
There's not much variety in this game either in terms of result.
No. Well, it's a weird one. So the Suns haven't lost at home. Now they invite Big Brother. Do they get
back in the fortress? People's First is a fortress for the Suns, and they're going to invite one of the hottest teams in the competition, the Brisbane Lions. Their cow.
Can I talk about that? Because let's start there. You talk about the fortress. So we don't need to talk about Zorko and Flanders. Pass, done. Everyone knows why we're playing them.
Sounds good.
You are the biggest. The Suns are flying when they're at home advocate. And there's no Noah Anderson. You have just stayed completely away from any of that upside at People's First. So
I have.
Is that because of the Lions, or is that more because of the Suns?
It's definitely because of the Lions. It's not I could be overthinking this, but a couple of weeks ago, Noah has an average of about 137 at home. It's probably more now. He just hasn't played bad at home yet. He's so fantastic. Just something clicks. It's that sun beaming down on him and hits him at an angle at People's First, and he's just on fire. But that Brisbane midfield is no joke. They're going to throw some nut bodies at him. numbers will be there. And I think the big thing for me is that Neil had a quiet week last week, and I feel like he's going to want to bounce back in a big way, especially in a game like this. So,
And Dunkley had a quiet week as well.
yeah, by their
Both the
standards,
boys
of
by their
course,
standards.
still got the win.
Yeah.
But I'm just looking at that. I think, the numbers, I'm not going to look into the numbers too much here. I'm just going to trust my gut. And my gut tells me that Lions are going to play well, miss out on Noah for this particular round, and maybe use him later on in the season when he's back at home.
Yeah, right. No, fair. What about Matty Rao? What are you going to tell him when you run into him next time and you say, "Hey, mate, even after I met you, I went the whole season without playing you once"?
I'm going to tell him I started him every week. He's my best player.
Well, maybe we got to run into Noah. Maybe I reckon if it was Noah you ran into, he'd be playing this week. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. No, you're probably right.
Talk about Joey Danaher. Joey Danaher. Obviously, I see why you've played him. I told you I went for another forward in Mackay.
Yeah.
Suns, again, I guess you're backing that the Lions, I'm not going to say that word, they smashed the Suns this week.
Yeah, I just don't think they have enough tall timber to be able to mess with someone like Joey Danaher.
Speaking of which, did you see the reports that Eric Hipwood's going to be playing down back because of the injury crisis?
I did see that, and that is definitely something we've got to talk about. So, if Joe Danaher plays deeper with this happening, I actually think it plays into his favor in terms of fantasy.
Chippy's out the back. Yeah, I want to know, is Eric Hipwood the next Harry Himmelberg when he went down back and just became an elite defender?
Do you remember that? Do you know who he's going to be? He's going to be the next Rory Lobb, who's done the same thing, but you're not hearing of him. So
Jordan Shackey, geez, there's a bunch of them. Yeah, wow.
But look, I first of all would love to play a bronze. Don't have one, so I would love to downgrade that. Use salary cap elsewhere. Don't have the option. Would rather get the player than worry about the salary cap, and that's I think always the most important thing. So not going to look too much into it. But Danaher, he's actually been a little bit quiet by his standards over the past couple of rounds. He started last game off being the highest scorer after the first quarter in that Swannies Lions game, and then just somewhat got neutralized for the rest of it. I feel like he has a big one in him. It's brewing. He hasn't scored over 100 points for 4 consecutive weeks straight, and this is a guy who averages into the hundreds. So yeah. I'm confident. Average of 104. I think it's a bit of a bounce back week. Him as the number one key forward for the Lions as well. If Hipwood does go down back, I think it only benefits him and his fantasy potential for this one. So I'm going a big key forward. We're going to need to see at least 3 goals here for this to sort of pay off, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's my risk with Danaher is he can kick 3 goals like he did last week and still not break 100. Exactly. Whereas I feel like if Mackay kicks 3 goals, he's scoring 100. So yeah. But
it's a fair assessment.
But yeah, fair enough. Should be a good game.
Yeah, man. It's going to be a cracker game at that. And McCluggage coming off a monster game last week. I don't think,
If we didn't have stuff on Saturday, I feel like every Lions member I know has been offered free tickets by the membership to go to the game. So I don't know if they couldn't sell any tickets or if the Lions just bought up all the tickets and are giving them to their members. But if you want to go to this game, I guarantee you'll be able to get free tickets because people can't give them away. So
nice little advice there, mate. Anyone you want to cover in this one before we move it over?
Nah, I think we've covered it all.
Beautiful. And I guess I'll say one obvious thing. Will Ashcroft is still a massive watch for the Lions. So young, so talented. Definitely going to be keeping a massive eye on him and just his movements, where he's playing, etc. We're here because of Game Day Squad. We've got Aussie Rules competition. We are heading towards the tail end of the season, but it's never too late to sign up. It's free to play. It's free to win. And over the off-season, you get given player cards just for logging into the app and onto the website, so you can start building your squad now for next season to make sure you have the best chance at winning some of the best prizes in all of fantasy sports. So if you haven't, get on board now, because you're only going to do yourself favors if you want to get involved next season.
I'd say sign up for the Women's Aussie Rules game because that's kicking off in just over a month now. We got to think about the positions dropping for that within the next week and a few other exciting things there. I know you're pretty pumped for that. You're going to be doing a lot of content in that space. So yeah, footy just rolls on for you. It's good.
It's great. I don't like to let go of footy Footy's need to be able to watch some on the weekend. Let's get into game 4. We have the Saints v Essendon. This should be an interesting game. I can't lie. But the cavalry is back for Essendon here. I know we spoke about Parrish a couple of weeks ago. He's now back into the lineup, Cal. So how does Caldwell look in that mix? You have opted to not start Caldwell. Now, I know your rule with injuries and that you don't like to play players coming off them. Is this why? Give me insight into that first, because we're talking about one of the best forwards for the season so far, not making your best 7 for the round.
I am a little bit worried about the Parrish role coming in.
Okay.
And I guess it kind of starts there with Caldwell. And like I said, I did have a hard time with my forwards. But yeah, just looking at him the last couple of weeks, 103, 137, he's been good. But yeah, I am very nervous of Parrish coming in. I think he's had his purple patch there. I'm just jumping off. Hopefully for the first time this season, jumping off a player right when I should, not holding on to him like I am with Luke Ryan. So yeah, okay. I am nervous about it. You clearly aren't. You think he's still absolutely top 7. Did the Parrish inclusion change mine at all?
I actually think they ease Parrish back in, which has sort of put my mind at ease a little bit here. I do think it's a concern moving forward, but I can't imagine with how good Caldwell's been playing and Parrish coming off, his first week in a very long time of playing footy in general. I can't imagine they throw him into the deep end and just say, hey, see how you go, deal with it. I think they ease him back in, and over time, the CBAs will just continue to drop for someone like Caldwell as Parrish's workload increases. So I'm not worried this week, but I am going to be worried in the next couple weeks. That is for sure, Cal. I just think it's a little bit early to make that call.
No, fair enough. And I didn't love the matchup as well. So it's not like I'm giving up, looking at it here and saying,
matchup for it.
Yeah. Yep. So it's like I said, it's me going a bit of hopefully one direction where everyone else is going the other direction. Caldwell was down to his lowest CBAs last week in a month. So he was back down to 50% even before Parrish comes back in. So if that number drops again, because remember...
He did also sit the 4th, though, for a good chunk of it with the injury.
Yeah. He did have the injury.
Plays in a little bit, but I know what you mean. It's still very low for what he's been doing for the season,
So, yeah. But the other ones too, Merritt and stuff, I was pretty vanilla. I like rolling out a platinum Merritt. Didn't phase me too much. I still think Merritt's an absolute weapon. He's going to be in there until maybe Parrish is up and running, and then maybe I'll make the call on him.
Yeah.
But again...
speaking of people eating into each other's points, can we talk about the second highest averaging player in this game, Nick Martin? He's listed as defense right now. Are you worried that maybe the inclusion of Parrish also impacts someone like him? Does he come in, take anything away from him? Their defense is so stacked now. They have Redmond, McGrath, Ridley, and Martin all back there, and all of them pretty solid fantasy options. Are there so many mouths to feed, or is Nick Martin the alpha and you shouldn't have to worry about?
Martin, I think, because he doesn't get any CBAs, that's not his role there. For me, it's just more around other midfielders. I feel like if Martin was a defender, I'd be playing him, right? Bring back last year, Martin, where we could play him in defense. He'd be in my defense straight away. But I still think he'll be comfortable. They're thereabouts and definitely playable. Me, I just like playing Merritt. So
absolutely, no issue with that at all.
Sinclair pretty vanilla as well.
Sinclair.
Well, before we talk about the big thing in a second that neither of us have done, I guess we'll talk about Sinclair, and then we can talk about maybe why none of us have decided to go with Rowan Marshall.
Yeah, okay. Sinclair starting on ball, it seems. He's been a good stream of midfield minutes all season. I just love the matchup, love his form. There's just no reason to not start Jack Sinclair in this one for me. It just seems like he'll get he's got his hands on the footy. He'll be heavily involved for the Saints. And I think this is more of a Sinclair game than a Steele game. I know Steele had a pretty monstrous one recently. It's time for him maybe to pump the brakes a little bit and score, and Sinclair to just dominate, in my opinion. So that's sort of my thought process, why I'm leaning there. But as Rowan Marshall...
Well, before you do that, just quickly, and so just I know because he always asks when he watches it back, Skip, there's your answer. Play Nazai and Wangadine Miller this week.
Hey, I'm on a streak. I'm streaking. A whole streak of 1.
1 of 19.
1 of 19.
But yeah, Rowan Marshall, 132, averaging 160 over his last 2 weeks. And we've both decided that, hey, you know what? We don't like the matchup you're not in.
Can you see why?
Yeah, it's a tough
Essendon
matchup.
are the ruck destroyers, the ruck dominators. Big Draper and Todd Goldstein, who's still kicking it. You gotta love seeing him put on the Dons uni, still out there grinding.
Goldie's out this week. Does that change your mind at
Oh
all?
no, it
Does
doesn't.
that change your mind?
I don't know if Goldie, how much impact he's had into that number of 18. He definitely has been a factor, but I
He's
think a
definitely
lot of
been
it's Sammy Draper.
yeah, but I guess they don't throw two. They've got Peter Wright coming in, but for pinch hitting.
Yeah.
But so
He's
yeah,
just always been such a solid defensive ruckman, Sam Draper, and like that's just his role, and he knows what he needs to do. He just needs to stick to Rowan Marshall and try to neutralise him. But look, it is the hottest ruckman in the game right now, so the task might be too heavy, and both of us might regret not punching him in.
Maybe I'm talking myself into it because I thought I'd try to be a bit different by not playing him, and I've gone with someone. You know what? I'm going to leave the door open into me actually playing Rowan Marshall, and you'll see why in a few moments. And maybe
Okay.
I need to figure out what the rest of the community is doing before I lock that one in.
No worries.
But I do like Rowan Marshall going forward, and it's a bit of a nicer matchup for him there if he does do that. So I don't know, Sammy Draper down back, but keep going. I'll tell you about who I might bring in for him, who I might do a late change for.
Yeah, too easy, man. But I think we've covered this game quite well. It should be a really good one. There's going to be a lot of fantasy points, a lot of fantastic players at that. You can just see how high those averages are for the top 10. You can see at the bottom there. Let's get into game 5, though. We've got the Demons. We've got the Giants. And it's Max Gawn week, is it?
Yeah. So you know my rule: do not play a player in their first week back from injury.
Unless it's
Max Gawn, who just quietly was the most dominant ruck this season until he went down. But now looking at those numbers, Marshall's actually averaging more than him, which is shocking. Like if you'd said that when Marshall went down, when Gawn went down, that Marshall, when he comes back, Marshall would be averaging more. I don't know how many people would have believed that, but I do like the matchup. I'm going to sit on it. I'm going to see what the people are doing. If everyone's going Gawn, I'm going to be going Marshall. Everyone's going Marshall. I'm going Gawn. I'm zagging. I like them both, like for different reasons, but I've already told you it's Tristan Cherry time. So yeah, I don't want to change that. But you obviously are not going to be rushing back into the Gawn decision this week, no matter how good the matchup.
Yeah. I don't. It's just not worth the risk for me. But you can see the Giants are such a tasty matchup. So if Gawn is fully healthy, he could just have like 150 points really easily. And I just see that happening. There's a world where that definitely happens, and it could be very probable. But you'll see why later as well for me. There's a little bit more context than just the matchup and everything. Gawn, look, if I was in another situation, maybe I do start Gawn here. But someone I'm not scared to start is the two Giants that both of us have now. You finally hopped on the Tom Green train. I think watching me start him for the past couple of weeks has finally brought you over. He is on fire, and Lockie Whitfield is literally the definition of matchup proof. Even when he got he's just different.
Well, I was funny that you say you brought him over. I think a little bit of his form brought him over as well. So he's gone 139, 140 in his last 2 weeks. So he's definitely
no TikTok mate or anything that sort of changed your mind.
Nah, it's his output, mate. Nothing to do with your little videos. Great matchup, obviously, against Melbourne with a really weakened midfield. I know you haven't gone Rivers, which I know you've been loving that train, but yeah, that bubbles burst. But yeah, I like Tom Green this week, and Whitfield matchup does scare me a little bit. But again, he's one of those players that are just so good that you kind of have to play him week in and week out. So
yeah.
It's very different. And it's interesting when you look at someone like Goulden, where you'll always find a way to get him in, or you always find a way to get someone like Lockie Whitfield in, almost regardless of the matchup. Yeah. And then we see the matchup for Gawn and Marshall and run at that. So yeah, it's funny how ruckman are probably impacted more by that than other positions.
Yeah, definitely. I'm almost surprised you haven't gone more salary cap on the two Giants, in all honesty. Like, look at Whitfield's
Oh, I've got
averaging
a, I've got a plan.
130.
I've got a plan. Once you see where my salary cap's gone this week, you'll understand why I've had no other salary cap for the rest of my squad.
Okay. It'll make sense soon then.
It will.
I can't wait to hear that. That'll be funny.
Oh, you'll see it before you hear it.
Trent Rivers, though, for me, I had similar to like Tom Stewart and Sicily. I had someone. I'm not going to spoil it because I haven't named the player yet, but I'll let you know when that player comes. But I was tossing up between the two and just gave the nod to the other. So Rivers was still in consideration and should be for your squads because of the midfield minutes. But the Giants have a pretty tidy midfield. Can't remember. Is Cogs back this week now as well? Maybe not. I know he's close. I know he's close if he's not. Let's have a look.
No, he's not.
Not yet. Not yet, but he's coming. So that midfield, though, is still pretty dangerous and neutralising either way. But I think Tom Green's going to lead the charge in this one. Absolutely dominant midfielder. Hopefully he can just get his kicks, a couple more kicks than handballs because, he does like to be a handball merchant at times.
Does love a handball. Hopefully on the weekend he does not. I'm just looking at what I want to keep an eye on, just not for this matchup, but Harrison Petty obviously stepped into the midfield a little bit more over the last couple of weeks for Melbourne.
Yep.
Yeah, just keep an eye on that this week. Maybe not for this week, but yeah, moving forward, potentially someone you can play.
Definitely a watch, 100%. Agree with that. But, mate, is there anyone else you want to talk about in this one or
No.
ready to move on?
No, I just miss Clayton Oliver. I got a lot of Clayton Oliver cards that I'm sure a lot of people have a lot of Clayton Oliver cards and yeah. Sad.
It's not just crazy to think the first 10 rounds of last season, he was like set and forget.
He was nuts. What did he go when we had the price?
He was the highest averaging player when he got before getting injured in the competition.
Yeah, wow. Was he? Damn.
And now injured. It's a completely different player. It's a completely different Clayton Oliver. It's a different Demons at that. But yeah. Crazy to think.
Yeah. What would you do with your cards? Where are you at with them? I mean, like,
hold.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's not worth it now. If you're going to do it, mate, it should have been almost 16 rounds ago. So if you're in this point now where you've got Clarice, I think it's only up from here. Let's think about it like that.
Would you? No, I won't give you that. I was going to give. I was going to throw you an NFL comparison. I was like, no, I'll give that to you later. We'll keep this Aussie rules.
Yeah, that's for sure. All righty, man. Let's go over. I reckon we've covered this game quite well. Let's get into game 6. So these will be the Sunday games, if I'm not mistaken, or the next one.
No, these are the Saturday night games.
Saturday night, prime time.
Prime time, and this is game time for my boys. We've got the same players. I've added in Luke Jackson as well, but I'll get to him in a second. But we've obviously thought Sarong and Brayshaw. We love the matchup against West Coast. Love the matchup against West Coast every single week.
We do.
And I'm backing Sarong and Brayshaw both to go ballistic again. I'm going to back them both in. I'm not going to try and pick one of them. I'm going to hope they both go 140 plus. And with those platinums, hopefully take it home for me. They've been in great form, right? It was Sarong at the start, then Brayshaw hit back. Now they're the exact same. What was your thought process behind not being able to pick one and playing both of them?
Just best matchup in the competition right now, and it's two of the best midfielders as well. They're just on their day. I could just see this being like 35 disposals each, 6 tackles, maybe a goal between one or two of them. Like this could be a this could be a beatdown. Honestly, I think West Coast they'll give it their all. It's the WA Derby, but I don't know how much they've got left, and I just think Sarong, Brayshaw are going to run them off the park and just have some really fantastic scores. And it's also why I've put Hayden Young into that mix as well. I've opted to not go Luke Ryan and Clark for this one because I just think it's going to be a really quick ball's just moving up into that forward line. And I sort of understand why you're starting Jackson because you're probably thinking the same thing. There's going to be plenty of ball down there.
Yeah, I like the matchup when he's in the ruck, and I like the matchup when he goes forward. And I thought he'd be a bit. He played really well last week, so I want to keep that rolling. I do love the upside of him. Yeah, you know how hard it was for me not to play Luke Ryan this week?
Do it. Play it.
You watch. He might still sneak back into this game, depending on how my round's going up until Saturday night.
Okay.
But I know the form says no, but the matchup says yes. And even though I feel like he hasn't scored a point in a month, he's still the highest averaging player in this game for the season, which is just wild.
I
Which
know.
just shows you how hot his start was.
Oh yeah.
And I tell you what, his All-Star card, if I ever get my hands on one of them, I tell you what, I won't be able to quit that.
Yeah, good look. Tasty. But yeah, I can't. Oh, you're making me think about Jackson. I'll be honest with you. It is such a good matchup. You can just see, look at every position for West Coast. It's just green everywhere. One of the best 5 matchups in all of Aussie Rules Fantasy right now at each position. So, no Sean Darcy thought though. It makes sense, but you know.
Yeah, and I'm like, to be fair, what I'm looking for here with Luke Jackson isn't 140, 150. It's, I'm looking for that 120, 125 point game I think he can have. And I don't think a lot of other coaches will be playing him this week. So that's why I'm going that. But he is known to punch out an 80, so it could hurt me.
For sure. If you're watching along, let us know how many Freo players you're playing. How many is too many, I guess, is the question we're asking. I've gone with 3. Cal's gone with 4, with potential for 1 more.
I'd say 7's too many, because if someone rocked up and they had Clark and what's Jason Blanket, Luke Ryan. There's names there on top of the list. If they had all 6 of them, that's it.
Okay, I hear. Unfortunately,
maybe I'll do that. Maybe, you know what? Maybe in like my challenger or my maybe my champion side where I'm not going to get close to it. Maybe I just go a whole Freo midfield and back 6 just to see. I like the matchup that much. I even played Tracy. Up forward just to see how we go. See how far I can get up that leaderboard.
Fair call, mate. Yeah, West Coast players in this one. I think it's a void. It's a big avoid. Freo are a really good team, and they're going to have the one up. There's just no one I can warrant starting.
No.
Not at all, but I reckon that wraps us up pretty well. Big ups on Freo. West Coast, unfortunately, not so much. So definitely be careful and tread carefully if you are going to go a bit of a pod in this one. But Game 7, we have Collingwood, Richmond. I'm starting to see a bit of a theme here. Almost like you had a look into some things, eh? I don't know if I'm happy with this.
I thought you'd say it a little bit earlier. But Taranto does come into my side for the first time this season. So I knew you'd jump up and down when you saw that I played him, particularly after I played Tom Green as well for the first time in a while. I like the matchup. I like players against Collingwood. I think Collingwood, geez, can you imagine if they lose this? I know their season's almost done, but if they lose this, it could get quite fun. Yeah, it could get quite interesting. But no, Timmy T, he's been really good since he's got back. I'm going to back him in for a really nice matchup. And I obviously think Dacos going the other way. I still think Richmond are an easy matchup, even if they could give him a bit of a run. And I think Dacos could have an absolute field day. So him and the pairing of that Freo midfield going to carry my squad this week. But I don't think that's going to be a big surprise. I think most people would have Dacos, and I think Taranto would be a player because of the matchup. Most coaches would be at least considering this week. So nothing too out of the unordinary here.
Fair call, and I agree. I just think it's going to be one of those ones. Taranto just dominates, Dacos dominates. The 2 stars on 2 teams who are, not in the hottest form are going to just absolutely eat. One thing I did want to talk about though, Cal, we got some pretty good viable forward options in Shai Bolton.
I thought about it.
Baker. Did you think about it?
I did.
Say yes.
I did think about it.
What swayed you away in the end?
You, because if I showed up onto this show with any Richmond forwards or even Dan Rioli, then I'd definitely hear about it. So, but I'll be honest, I did think about who do I play? Do I play someone like a Bolton? And I ultimately didn't. So, yeah, just because the forward matchups. But I can see it. I can see someone thinking this is the week to play a bit of a roll of dice, and maybe in one of those other competitions that I'm not taking as seriously, maybe I will.
Yeah, fair call. I hear. But yeah, this should be a good one. It should be pretty top heavy though. I'm going to be honest. Like I'm not looking to elsewhere. As same with you. I just think those 2 guys are going to eat, and there's not too much for the game to look forward to. Other than just enjoying footy and watching the result.
No, it always shocks me how Collingwood just don't have any other fantasy options outside of Dacos, considering how good they've been. So yeah.
Yeah, nice. Want to get into the next one, or does anyone else want to talk about from here?
Nah, not really. I know Nankervis is
Big Nank.
big nank, but the matchups, he's probably the only other one on the other side you consider. But like we said, there's too many good matchups going the other way this week for Ruck. So yeah, I think we can move it on.
Let's do it. Game 8. The Swannies versus the Western Bulldogs. Now, my Swannies do need to win in this one. We need to get
Our
back into a
Swannies,
winning
mate. Come
form.
on. What are you talking
My
about?
Swannies.
You didn't even show up to your team to play.
Come on, bro.
They're an hour down the highway, and you went, no, thank you. I do not want to go.
Public transport doesn't exactly work like that up here, man. It's a little bit harder than just getting to the game and getting home. It's not like the olden days back in Sydney. But you have not played Errol Goulden, and I think you need to start there because this might be your biggest mistake of the round.
Biggest mistake or biggest pod of the round?
It doesn't matter what any numbers say. This guy is match up proof.
Listen, I'm just going to tell you, I saw him in person and I wasn't impressed. I don't see what all the fuss is about, to be honest.
What, 135 points wasn't enough for you in a game where there were no subs?
No, I just think the Dogs matchup is a tricky one.
You started Richards. Nah, mate. This is
What are you
we need to
talking
have
about?
a meeting after this. You have definitely sneak peeked into my squad.
I have picked
That is
Richards.
absolute jargon. You have not gone Taranto and Ed Richards and then the double Freo boys. Nah.
Mate, I made my squad before I even looked at your slides.
Does anyone else have a friend like this when they play fantasy? Please comment. What is this?
Trust me. If I was copying your squad, I'd be doing a lot better on the leaderboard than I currently am. Don't worry about that.
I'm filthy.
Yeah.
I thought I was playing a pod of Richards. Well, everyone's on board, are they? If you're on board, then I know it's too late.
Do you know what he scored last week?
I do.
So 155 isn't going to just float under the radar. So, yeah, I do like that matchup.
But it doesn't float under the radar when he scores 83, 80, 100, 111 the rounds beforehand. We're talking about a James Sicily in defence. We're not talking about
you got Tim English under wraps. I'm not giving you Ed Richards. So,
okay.
Do you want me to keep talking about Goulden or you heard enough? It's just going to be nonsensical.
No, talking about Goulden, I can't believe that you're not starting him.
Yeah, it's just the matchup. And I'm looking for a big pod. And I don't know. I think the Swans are vulnerable. I still think you guys will win the premiership, but tough matchup. Dogs, they're in a bit of form. You guys are a bit injury hit. Keen to see how you guys go. I think Goulden's an absolute star, and I'm definitely going to be sitting here on Sunday going, geez, why did I not play his 135? But like I said, I've got to take a bit of a swing, and I've gone a different direction in the midfield, even though I feel like we're looking at the matchups, right? The only different midfielder I've played is Rosie. So think about it like that. We've played the exact same matchups in the middle the whole way through. I've just played my prize Rosie over Goulden. So
okay, very cool.
Still tough to argue why. But yeah.
Well, look, in this one, if you looked at lineups, maybe you'd think about it a little bit more. Maybe some of the players I mentioned, Taylor Adams apparently starting on ball for Sydney, but they've got Mills listed as on half forward and Goulden listed on the half forward. So
don't worry about that.
I think there's a bit of mind games going on here. I think there'd be a little bit of shuffling when it comes time. And
mate, you've been around footy for too long to be thinking about where they're lining up because it doesn't mean anything.
Look, if Taylor Adams actually played a good, solid time in the midfield, he could be a great pod forward for players in their forward lines for this round. So I know what you're saying, but I do think it's a consideration. If you want to take a bit of a risk and you want to go a bit left when others are going right, why not play someone like Taylor Adams if you're shooting for the Stars?
Yeah. Again, tougher matchup, but I definitely see it obviously with Papley out now as well. So yeah, that's an interesting one. Did you know it's Bailey Dale's 150th game, and we've both gone with Ed Richards? So maybe I'll swap to him. Maybe I'll be feeling it. But obviously, pretty standard with Heaney on the other side. Heaney down week, but we both back him to bounce back. And you've obviously gone with Timmy English over someone like Gawn or Marshall that I was talking about there before. So
for sure, I guess I'll get into this one. I'll be honest with you. It didn't scream out to me. I'm not looking at this thinking this is Tim English week, okay?
Very, very odd because Brodie Grundy, okay, he hasn't had the season I thought he'd have scoring wise, but he does clamp down and stop other rucks from scoring.
He does. He does. And look, let's talk about it. I feel like I'm in a position that you were in earlier this year with Connor Rozee. I just have the
Ooh.
All-Star, and I feel like I must start him because Jordan Dawson has been ruled out. So Jordan Dawson's injured. He's not playing for the Crows in the last game. So it feels like it's forced my hand into this decision. And at the same time, I'm trying to convince myself that everyone else won't play Tim English. And if he does somehow just have a legacy game and just
Dan
destroys it,
Rioli special.
yes,
I'm surprised
bro.
it hasn't featured in
And
your squad this week.
I just have his All-Star and no one else has gone in. They've gone like either Rowan, Gorn, or Cherry. This could be the difference. And if I want that top 10 spot, do I have to trust in my boy? Do I have to trust an English gang? If anyone's going to get me there, I think I need to put my faith in the right man. And he is hopefully going to be that guy for me. I'm not saying it with too much confidence, though.
Well, if you don't make it this season, it's because of Tim English. That 600 points difference you were talking about at the start, that's Tim English when he went MIA there for the first, that middle part of the year. So,
yeah.
No, I like the logic. Obviously, a tough matchup. And yeah, you were saying about the All-Star Dawson out, but I don't know. Ned McHenry, man, covered that role nicely. I saw him in.
Oh, please don't.
And I'm just looking here. I'm like, maybe if I need a Hail Mary, if my Freo plan doesn't go as I want it to, maybe I will just sneak in the Dan Rioli game for Ed Richards. Wouldn't that hurt if I play Dan Rioli? I capture his legacy game against a pretty good matchup in Collingwood.
True.
Yeah. So keep an eye out for that.
Spicy.
That might sting at work on Monday.
Definitely keep an eye on it. But yeah, hoping Swans win. Goulden, bang. Heaney, back in form. Timmy English, bang. And Ed Richards, bit of a pod, but apparently not. Both of us have gone him. He's got that midfield minutes. He's got that midfield time. He's spending a lot more time sort of in that area. And I've really liked what I've seen from him, which is why I've given him the nod. Because although it's a tough matchup for mids in the Swans, I just think the opportunity to be in the midfield will still outweigh the matchup data, irrespective. So,
Fair.
It seems like for you though, he's sort of your last defender you've picked. Is that right? Would that be fair to say? Because you're sort of thinking about potentially subbing him, or you're just saying that in case for some upside. And
I am thinking of two players. The next one is on the next screen. Maybe I'll start with him on the next screen if you flick over. And it's Sicily in the Hawks-Crows matchup because of that injury that just seems to niggle around him. So I'm worried about like Richards and Sicily, but I don't know who I'd be pulling in for them. Like I said, maybe a Rioli, but Sicily has been pretty awesome, and he's got that ceiling, and he's got a really good matchup. And over the last couple of weeks or his last couple of games, he's playing really, really well. So I think I'll stay with him just for the upside because I do think he could go 160. Whereas I don't think someone like if I'd replaced him, I can't see Dan Rioli going 160.
Yeah, fair call. I hear you, man. But for me, I've gone Benny Keys. You mentioned this in the review.
Yes, I thought about it too. Yeah, I thought about it too. I did like it. I just hate the matchup.
Look, the matchup doesn't say it, but what sealed the deal for me was Dawson going out. Seeing Dawson out, it just seems like there's such a void to be filled. And I guess it's, I don't know. I just think someone needs to step up. There's no Rankin, and I feel like Rankin would normally be that guy. Chuck him in, and then he could do a job. But with Keys there, with the form he's in, the goal kicking ability, I'm just backing him in, and I'm just going to trust him, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I do have a lot of Keys cards because I did think as a forward this year he would get the midfield time and be a bit of a star. Hasn't worked out. Maybe next year. I'll still have all the same cards to deploy. But I actually like it. I do like it. And if you're probably right, if I'm looking at the forwards I've already picked, right? Luke Jackson, Brian Myers, Harry Mackay.
Yep.
because I really love the Dylan Moore matchup this week. We've both got him this week. If I could play more salary on him, I probably would. But I've obviously gone in on that Freo game. But then Heaney, Flanders, and Zorko are lock. But you know what? I might actually call an audible here and say that I'm going to swap out Keys for either a Jackson Myers or a Mackay.
Wow.
Because you're right. Just that midfield time, just because of the now I'm thinking about it with Dawson.
Shouldn't have convinced you.
Shouldn't have convinced me. Hey, it happens. You did the team thing, the squad
I did
thing.
do the same thing.
But I won't lock it in yet because I actually don't know who I'd drop. Maybe Myers. Maybe Myers would be the one to go.
Yeah, fair call. But yeah, I'm really excited. I think it's going to be a good week. I'm pretty bullish about my squad. You know, I've had some weeks where it's just been too boom and bust. I just need a really good base and my all stars to pop here, and I think I can get right back in that hunt for that 10th spot. But let's get into the squads in our entirety, and of course, here we are, Cal. This is what you're rolling out with, that loaded up on salary cap between the prize cards, the Freo mids, and Nick Dacos. You're going all-in strategy there. Love it.
You can tell I was rushed because you know how much I love having my squad in order. But no, I don't like looking at it. Not having my two platinum boys there. Cherry is the gold on the bench. Hurts my eyes a little bit, so apologies for that. But yeah, I'm feeling good this week. There's a few pods. I'm going to be getting around a few players I haven't had the chance to this year, in Tommy Green and Taranto and your boy now, apparently Ed Richards. So, and I do like being on Sicily, but
I didn't play.
Well, you tried to.
I'm just shocked you started him with how delayed you can be at times with players.
I need time to warm up to players.
I.e., this guy right here. See this guy?
Yeah.
That should have been 4 weeks ago. But at least he's earned it, but only bronze. So
Did I beat you last week?
Just. And the reason you did is I picked too many dope players. I'm hoping this round that is not the case. This is my squad in its entirety. I always try to distribute some of that salary cap a little bit. And of course, I have my two all-star players. And for me, they will either make or break my round. If I'm in the top 10, it will be because Errol Goulden and Tim English have gone 140 plus each, and the rest of my squad has just been pretty good. And if I don't, it's probably because Tim English hasn't even cracked 100, and I'm sitting there like, why did I even start him? I should have put the salary cap elsewhere.
Yeah, it's a pretty solid squad. I'm looking at it. I reckon you could probably take a few more risks in that chase for the top, but yeah, we'll see. Maybe the Benny Keys is that risk.
Maybe it is, or maybe it's Tim English.
Maybe it is Tim English. Tim English now saves your season.
Tim English, come back to save me. He put me in this position, but he's going to come back and he's going to do it for me, mate. But yeah, next show, Cal. We are no longer going to do the review show. We're just going to do the preview shows. We're ramping up, as you said, the content for the women's Aussie Rules season that is rapidly approaching. We've got a show lined up for that. We've got a bunch of content for the preseason to help you get ready with rankings, have a look at positional changes, literally everything you will need to know to start the season and, you know, on your feet and running hopefully into some really good positions because, yeah, it is a shorter season, but it's going to be one full of fun and I can't bloody wait.
Yeah, I'm pumped for you. So I'll be taking a step back. I won't be involved in those women's Aussie rules stuff. I'll be helping more on the basketball side, which obviously picks up at the same time as well and carries us through. So yeah, footy's finishing here, but doesn't mean that there isn't still footy on and basketball. So yeah, pretty pumped.
Absolutely.
Pretty pumped.
Footy's finishing, but the prizes are still getting paid out. And of course, we're still having good fun with it. But mate, Cal, I think that'll wrap us up. And I guess we'll ask everyone, do you reckon they're ready after that? Are they going to have more questions than answers after some of our spiels? Or are they now going to be zoned in knowing this is what I need to do this round? The boys.
If they're anything like me, they're still thinking about if picking the line was the right choice. That's where my mind's at. I've got to solve that first before I solve my fantasy squad. So
I know what you're still thinking. Your one thought into the round will be like, can I really not play Luke Ryan? That'll be on your mind up until the third bounce.
You'll check my squad Sunday night and Luke Ryan Platinum will somehow have creeped in. Nick Dacos out.
Nick Dacos out. Luke Ryan Platinum in. Legacy game.
I can't quit him.
But alrighty, that's
He
going
just
to do
wants the
us.
footy so bad. You can't hate a man who wants the footy so bad. So,
You truly can't. And he is the real Slim Shady, the
mhm.
king of chippies himself. We will hopefully we see him back to his best because I really like that role. I really like just having him there. But now, I feel like I'm benching you with confidence. And I don't want to be saying that.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Neither, mate. Hopefully he can get back on track. And hopefully your squads can get on track this weekend. Good luck, everyone. Round 20 review or